When my son told me his fiancée's family wanted to meet me, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wore my oldest dress. I left my jewelry at home. I pretended I didn't know which fork to use at dinner. And when her mother looked at me with pity in her eyes, I smiled like I didn't notice. They thought I was poor. They thought I was simple. They thought my son was marrying up, and I was just a burden he had to carry into their perfect family. But what they didn't know could fill an ocean. And by the time the truth came out, it was already too late for apologies. My name is Catherine. I'm 63 years old. And this is the story of how I let my future daughter-in-law's family underestimate me and why I'll never regret it. I raised my son, Michael, by myself. His father left when Michael was 3, and I never remarried. People always felt sorry for me. A single mother, working 2 jobs, living in a small apartment. They saw struggle, they saw sacrifice, and they weren't wrong. But what they didn't see was everything else. I worked as a waitress during the day and cleaned offices at night. But I also invested every spare dollar I earned. I bought properties when nobody wanted them. I fixed them up on weekends. I rented them out. By the time Michael graduated college, I owned 7 buildings across the city. I never told him. I never told anyone. I lived simply because I wanted to, because I didn't need to prove anything to the world. Michael grew up thinking we were just getting by. He studied hard, earned scholarships, and became a software engineer. He was proud, independent, and kind. Everything I hoped he would be. Then he met Alexandra. Alexandra came from money, old money, the kind that comes with country clubs, charity galas, and family names on hospital wings. She was beautiful, educated, and polished in ways I never was. When Michael brought her home to meet me, I could see the surprise in her eyes. My small apartment, my simple furniture, my worn-out couch. She smiled politely, but I saw her taking mental notes. Your mother is lovely, she told Michael later. I heard her through the thin walls. But are you sure about this? I mean, the financial difference between our families? Michael defended me. He always did. But I heard the uncertainty in his voice too. That's when I made my decision. I would meet her family exactly as they expected me to be. Not to deceive them, but to see who they really were when they thought they had nothing to gain from me. The dinner invitation came 3 weeks later. Alexandra's mother, Victoria, wanted to host a family dinner at their estate. Just something casual, Alexandra said, so our families can get to know each other. I knew what casual meant to people like them. I prepared carefully. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought at a thrift store 15 years ago. I left my pearl necklace, the real one, worth more than most people's cars, in my drawer. I wore costume jewelry instead. I took the bus to their neighborhood, then walked the last 2 blocks so they wouldn't see me arrive. Their house was exactly what I expected. A mansion with white columns, perfectly manicured gardens, and a circular driveway filled with expensive cars. A housekeeper answered the door. You must be Mrs. Chen, she said warmly. Please, come in. I followed her through a marble foyer into a dining room that could seat 20 people. Crystal chandelier, oil paintings, silverware that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget tour at least. What they thought was my monthly grocery budget. Victoria appeared first. She was elegant, wearing a designer dress and diamonds. Her smile was practiced, perfect, and cold. Catherine, she said, extending her hand like she was doing me a favor. How wonderful to finally meet you. Alexandra has told us so much about you. I shook her hand gently. Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Morrison. Your home is beautiful. Oh, please, call me Victoria. She looked me up and down quickly, her eyes catching on my shoes, my dress, my simple handbag. I saw her expression soften into something that looked like pity. Come, sit. Dinner will be ready soon. Alexandra's father, Richard, was next. He was tall, distinguished, with silver hair and an air of authority. He shook my hand firmly but barely looked at me. Good to meet you, he said, already turning away to pour himself a drink. Then came Alexandra's brother, Jonathan. He was younger, arrogant, wearing a suit that probably cost $3,000. He looked at me the way you might look at someone's embarrassing relative. So you're Michael's mom, he said, not even bothering to shake my hand. He's a lucky guy, getting into this family. I smiled. Yes, he is very lucky to have found Alexandra. Michael arrived last, apologizing for being late from work. He kissed my cheek and whispered, "You okay, Mom?" "I'm fine, sweetheart," I whispered back. Dinner was served, Courses I recognized from the fancy restaurants I'd been to but never mentioned. French onion soup, seared duck breast, roasted vegetables with herbs I could name but pretended not to know. Asterisk, the conversation started politely enough. Victoria asked about my work. Asterisk, I work at a diner downtown. I said, I've been there for many years. Asterisk. Oh, Victoria's smile tightened. How, stable, asterisk, and you live in an apartment, is that right? Richard asked, cutting his duck with precision. Asterisk, yes, a small one, but it's enough for me. Asterisk, Jonathan laughed. Must be quite a change for Michael, going from that to Alexandra's penthouse. Asterisk, Michael's jaw tightened. John, that's enough. Asterisk, Alexandra touched Michael's hand. It's fine. We're all family here. But her eyes said something different. Asterisk, Victoria leaned forward, her voice dripping with false kindness. Catherine, I hope you don't mind me asking, but have you thought about Michael and Alexandra's future? The wedding will be expensive. We're happy to cover most of it, of course. But traditionally, she trailed off, waiting for me to feel ashamed. I put down my fork carefully. I understand. I'll contribute what I can. Asterisk, of course. Of course, Victoria said quickly. We don't expect much. Maybe you could handle the rehearsal dinner. Something small and simple at that diner where you work. Asterisk, the table went quiet. Even Jonathan looked uncomfortable. Asterisk, Michael started to stand. Mom, we don't have to asterisk. I touched his arm. It's all right, Michael. I think that's a lovely idea. Asterisk, Victoria looked relieved. Richard looked satisfied. Jonathan smirked. And Alexandra, Alexandra looked at me with something that might have been guilt, but not quite enough to speak up. The weeks that followed were revealing. Victoria called me occasionally, always with the same tone of charitable concern. She offered to take me shopping for a proper dress for the wedding. She suggested I might want to practice my table manners before the engagement party. Asterisk, you're so sweet to worry. I told her each time, I'll manage. Asterisk, the engagement party was held at their country club. I arrived in the same old dress, carrying a simple gift bag. The other guests were dripping in designer labels and expensive watches. I saw them look at me, whisper to each other, then look at Michael with sympathy. Asterisk, poor boy. Their eyes said, marrying into our world but bringing that with him. Asterisk, I found a quiet corner and watched how Victoria introduced Alexandra to business partners and old family friends. Watched how Richard talked about expanding his company, dropping names of politicians and CEOs. Watched how Jonathan bragged about his trust fund and his new sports car. Asterisk, and I watched how they treated Mikhail like a talented pet they were generous enough to adopt. Asterisk, Alexandra found me eventually. She'd had a few glasses of champagne, and her guard was down. Asterisk, I'm sorry about my family, she said, sitting next to me. They can be ... particular. Asterisk, they love you. I said simply. That's what matters. Asterisk, she looked at me with something like curiosity. You're different than I expected. Michael talks about you like you're this strong, amazing woman. But you're so ... double quotes asterisk, simple. I offered ... asterisk, she blushed. I didn't mean it that way. Asterisk, it's all right. I am simple. I like simple things. Simple life. Asterisk, she nodded, relieved. I think that's beautiful, actually. Not everyone needs to be complicated. She paused. My mother wants to help you. You know, with the rehearsal dinner. She has event planners who could asterisk, no need. I said gently, I'll handle it. She looked doubtful but didn't push. That night, Michael drove me home. He was quiet, angry. Asterisk, I'm so sorry. Mom, he finally said. The way they treat you, I didn't realize it would be this bad. Asterisk, Michael, look at me. I waited until he met my eyes. Do you love Alexandra? Asterisk, yes. Asterisk, does she make you happy? Asterisk, yes. Asterisk, then that's all that matters. Her family's opinions don't define me. And they shouldn't define you either. Asterisk, he hugged me tight. I don't care about their money, Mom. I never have. Asterisk, I know, sweetheart. That's why I raised you right. The rehearsal dinner approached. Victoria called me the week before, her voice full of forced brightness. Asterisk, Catherine. Dear, I've been thinking, why don't you let me handle the rehearsal dinner after all? I know you want to contribute, but planning events can be so stressful. And it's already planned. I said, silence. Oh, where? Where will it be? Asterisk, the Grandview Hotel. The rooftop restaurant. Asterisk, another silence. Longer this time. The Grandview was the most exclusive hotel in the city. Reservations required months of waiting and connections most people didn't have. Asterisk, the ... Grandview. Catherine, are you sure? That venue is very expensive. If you're worried about disappointing us, please don't. We truly don't expect asterisk. It's already booked and paid for. Everything is arranged. Asterisk I. Well, that's very generous of you. Her voice had changed. Confusion was creeping in. I didn't know you had dimene. How did you manage to asterisk I have my ways? I said simply, I hope everyone enjoys it. I hung up before she could ask more questions. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I arrived early. I wore a different dress this time. Nothing extravagant, but new, elegant, perfectly tailored. I'd had my hair done. I wore my real pearl necklace. Asterisk the staff at the Grandview greeted me by name. Mrs. Chen, wonderful to see you again. Everything is ready exactly as you requested. Asterisk the rooftop had been transformed. Soft lighting, white roses, a string quartet playing softly, tables set with perfect precision, a view of the city skyline that took your breath away. Asterisk Michael arrived with Alexandra, both of them stunned. Asterisk Mom. This is, how did you? Michael couldn't finish his sentences. Asterisk, I kissed his cheek. You're my only son. Did you think I'd let your rehearsal dinner be ordinary? Asterisk, the Morrison family arrived next. Victoria's expression was a masterpiece of confusion. Richard looked around with sharp, assessing eyes. Jonathan's smirk had disappeared completely. Asterisk Catherine, Victoria said slowly. This is ... unexpected. Asterisk, is it? I smiled. Please, sit. Dinner will be served soon. Asterisk throughout the meal. I watched them recalculate. Watched Victoria's wheels turning. Watched Richard study me like I was a puzzle he'd initially solved wrong. Watched Jonathan stay uncharacteristically quiet. Asterisk, the food was exquisite. 5 courses, wine pairings, everything perfect. Between the main course and dessert, I stood up. I'd like to say a few words. I said. The room quieted. Michael looked nervous. Alexandra looked curious. Asterisk, when Michael told me he wanted to marry Alexandra, I was thrilled. Not because of her family's name or their wealth, but because I saw how she made my son smile. How she challenged him, supported him, loved him. I paused, but I've noticed something over these past months. Some people seem to think Michael is lucky to be marrying into the Morrison family. That he's climbing some social ladder. That I'm a burden he's bringing along. Asterisk, Victoria's face went pale. Richard set down his wine glass. Asterisk, I want to clarify something. I continued. I am proud of who I am and what I've accomplished. I raised an exceptional man alone. I worked hard my entire life. And yes, I've been successful in ways I chose not to advertise. Asterisk, I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope. I handed it to Michael. Asterisk, this is my wedding gift to you both. Open it. Asterisk Michael opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a deed. He stared at it, his eyes widening. Asterisk Mom, this is a house. Asterisk not just any house. I said, the brownstone on Maple Street, 4 bedrooms, renovated last year, no mortgage. It's yours. Asterisk, the room erupted in whispers. Alexandra covered her mouth with her hands. Victoria looked like she might faint. I don't understand, Michael whispered. How did you... Asterisk, I've owned it for 3 years, I said gently, along with 6 other properties in this city. I've been a landlord and investor for over 30 years. Michael, I just never saw the need to mention it. Asterisk, but you live in that small apartment. You work at the diner. You always said we had to budget. Asterisk, I do live simply, by choice. The diner job keeps me active and social. And I taught you to budget because it's an important life skill, not because we were poor. I smiled. I'm not wealthy by Morrison standards, perhaps, but I'm comfortable, very comfortable. Asterisk, Richard spoke up, his voice careful. Why didn't you say something? Asterisk, I turned to him. Because I wanted to see who you all were when you thought I had nothing you needed. When you thought there was nothing to gain from being kind to me, the silence was deafening. You invited me into your home and treated me like a charity case. I continued, my voice calm but firm. You pitied my son for his background. You offered to handle the rehearsal dinner because you assumed I couldn't afford it. You looked at me and saw someone lesser. Victoria started to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. Because kindness shouldn't depend on someone's bank account. Respect shouldn't require a certain address. And real family doesn't measure worth in dollars. Asterisk, I looked at Alexandra. I don't blame you for your family's assumptions. But I hope you'll remember this moment. When you and Michael have children someday, teach them to look deeper. Teach them that the woman in the old dress might have more wisdom and strength than the one in diamonds. Asterisk, Alexandra was crying now. Mrs. Chen, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you. I should have asterisk, you should have. I agreed. But you're young. You'll learn. I softened. I see how much you love my son. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'm still giving you my blessing. Asterisk, Michael stood up and hugged me, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have trusted that you had everything under control like you always do. Asterisk, you have nothing to apologize for, I whispered. You've always loved me for who I am, not what I have. That's all a mother can ask for. The rest of the evening was subdued. The Morrison family barely spoke. Other guests mingled, unaware of what had transpired, enjoying the beautiful setting and excellent food. Asterisk, as people began to leave, Victoria approached me. Her face was a mixture of shame and something that might have been respect. Asterisk, Catherine. I don't know what to say. I've been incredibly rude, incredibly presumptuous. Asterisk, yes, I said simply. You have been... Asterisk, she flinched. I'd like to apologize properly, and I'd like to get to know the real you, if you'll let me. Asterisk, I studied her face. The apology seemed genuine, but time would tell. Asterisk, actions speak louder than words. Victoria, show me you've learned something, and we'll see. She nodded, accepting the terms. Richard was next. He extended his hand, and this time, he looked at me when he shook it. Asterisk, you're a remarkable woman. He said, I underestimated you completely. That was foolish of me. Asterisk, it was. I agreed. But we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next. Asterisk, Jonathan approached last, looking genuinely humbled for the first time since I'd met him. Asterisk, Mrs. Chen, I've been an arrogant jerk. There's no excuse for how I treated you. I'm sorry. Asterisk, apology accepted, I said. Now go be better. Asterisk, after they left, only Michael, Alexandra, and I remained on the rooftop. Asterisk, I still can't believe this. Michael said, holding the deed like it might disappear. Why didn't you tell me? Asterisk, I sat down, suddenly tired, because I wanted you to build your own life, your own success. If you'd known I had money, would you have worked as hard? Would you have valued what you earned? Asterisk, he thought about it. Maybe not. Asterisk, exactly. I gave you something more valuable than money. Michael, I gave you character, work ethic, humility. Those things can't be inherited. They have to be earned. Asterisk, Alexandra sat on my other side. I feel terrible. The way my family treated you. The way I let them treat you. Asterisk, you stood by and said nothing when you should have spoken up. I said, honestly, that's something you need to work on. Love isn't just about private moments. It's about public defense too. Asterisk, she nodded, wiping her eyes. I'll do better. I promise. Asterisk, see that you do. Because you're marrying my son, and he deserves someone who will fight for him and his family, no matter what room they're in. Asterisk, I will, she said firmly. I love him, and I'd like to learn from you if you'll teach me. Asterisk, I smiled. We'll see. First, let's get through this wedding. The wedding 3 months later was beautiful. Victoria kept her promise and treated me with genuine respect. She introduced me to her friends as Michael's remarkable mother, a successful businesswoman. The change in her tone, her attitude, was noticeable. Asterisk, Richard asked me for investment advice during the reception. We had a long conversation about real estate markets, and I saw him look at me with real interest. Real respect. Asterisk, Jonathan brought his girlfriend to meet me and actually asked about my story, about how I built my portfolio. I want to learn, he said. Not just inherit, actually learn. Asterisk, good, I told him. Come by my office next week. I'll show you the fundamentals. Asterisk, Alexandra was a beautiful bride. During her speech, she looked directly at me. Asterisk, I want to thank my new mother-in-law, she said, her voice strong. She taught me that true wealth isn't in what you own, but in who you are. She showed me that strength comes in quiet forms. And she reminded me that family is about love and respect, not assumptions and appearances. Thank you, Catherine, for raising the man I love. And thank you for giving me a second chance to be the daughter-in-law you deserve. Asterisk, the room applauded. I wiped away tears I didn't expect to shed. Michael's speech was simpler. Mom, you've always been my hero. Now everyone else knows why. Asterisk, later. During the reception, I stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Michael found me there. Asterisk, double quotes, penny for your thoughts. He asked. Asterisk, I'm thinking about your father. I said, wishing he could see this. See you? See the man you've become? Asterisk, he'd be proud. Asterisk, beyond measure. I squeezed his hand. I just hope I did right by you. All those years of struggling, of keeping secrets, double quotes, asterisk mom. He turned me to face him. You gave me everything that mattered. You taught me to work hard, to value people over things, to be humble. You taught me that worth isn't measured by others' opinions. And you showed me, tonight and always, that real strength doesn't need to announce itself. Asterisk and the house. I asked with a small smile. Asterisk, he laughed. The house is amazing and overwhelming and incredibly generous, but it's not why I love you. I'd love you the same if we were still in that small apartment. Asterisk, I know. I said, that's why I finally told you the truth. Because I knew it wouldn't change you. We stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city below. Will you tell me the whole story someday? He asked. Every property, every investment, every decision. Asterisk someday, I promised. But not tonight. Tonight is about you and Alexandra. About your future. Asterisk, our future, he corrected. You're a part of it too, Mom. Always. That was 2 years ago. Michael and Alexandra are happy in their brownstone. They're expecting their first child next month, a girl. They've already asked me to be involved, to help raise her. Asterisk, Victoria and I have coffee once a month. Now, we're not best friends, but we've found a mutual respect. She admitted once that meeting me changed how she sees people, how she judges worth. Asterisk, Richard refers business contacts to me occasionally. We've even invested in a property together. Asterisk, Jonathan did come to learn from me. He's doing well now, building his own portfolio instead of just living off his family name. Asterisk, and me. I still live in my small apartment. I still work at the diner 3 days a week. Not because I have to, but because I like the routine, the conversation, the feeling of purpose. Asterisk, I've added 2 more properties to my portfolio. I'm planning to establish a scholarship fund for single mothers going back to school. Something I wished had existed when I was struggling. Asterisk, people still underestimate me sometimes. I still wear simple clothes. I still take the bus. And I still smile when I see the surprise in their eyes when they learn the truth. Asterisk, because I've learned something valuable over these 63 years. Let people underestimate you. Let them make their assumptions. Let them show you who they really are when they think you're powerless. Asterisk, then decide if they deserve to know the real you. Asterisk, my granddaughter will be named Catherine, after me. I hope to teach her what my mother-in-law situation taught me, that true wealth is measured in character, kindness, and the courage to be exactly who you are, regardless of what others think. Asterisk, and when she's old enough, I'll tell her this story. About the time her grandmother wore an old dress to dinner and let rich people treat her like she was poor. About how she taught them a lesson in humility without raising her voice. Asterisk, I'll tell her that. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain silent until the perfect moment to speak. Asterisk, and that respect earned is worth more than respect assumed. Asterisk, never judge people by their appearance or circumstances. The quiet woman in the old dress might own the building you're standing in. Kindness and respect should be given freely, not based on what you think someone can offer you. And sometimes the greatest power is letting others underestimate you until they learn otherwise.